So all of the Microsoft products of the Office suite have very similar look and feel, but each one is unique in the elements that it has as we take a look at the screen here. So before we dive into the actual functionality of Word, I'd like to take a moment and kind of cover the basic elements. Because as I go through this, I'm going to refer to things like the Quick Launch toolbar, or the ribbon, or the status bar. So I want to make sure we're all clear as to what these different elements are and what they're capable of doing for us. So as we look at the screen here, what I've done is I've actually launched Microsoft Word and I've opened a blank document. Now the main area you see right here in the center, think of that as my canvas. This is where I'm actually going to see the document that I'm working on. Now this document, of course, could be zoomed in and zoomed out. I also want to notice I have some areas on the left and right. Those areas on the left and right are going to house different things depending upon what we select from a tool perspective. So as we go through this, just know you're going to be seeing different things pop up on the left and pop up on the right. Then if I start in the upper left-hand corner of the screen, you'll see that I have a little icon for Word that indicates that I'm in the Word application. And these icons next to it are what are called the Quick Launch toolbar. And what the Quick Launch toolbar is quick access to some very common, very frequently used commands. You'll see that I've got Save, that's the little disk icon there. We've got Undo, and we've got Redo. Those are the most common commands that you're going to be using. Later on in this course, I'll show you how you can add to this Quick Launch toolbar to be able to get your own frequently used commands up there as well. Now, in the center of the screen at the top, we get our title. This gives me an idea of what it is that I'm working on. This is the file name of the file that I'm working on. And right now, it's the first document that I've opened up. I haven't saved it, so therefore Microsoft Word is calling it Document 1, and it's a Word document. It's important to understand that the look and feel is going to be very similar, so you want to make sure you look at the top to find out what you're in, because it may limit the functionality that you have as you're editing that particular document. And in the far right-hand side, we have some window controls. These, the line, the double boxes here, and the X, those are standard window controls. They're going to affect the entire window. Am I closing it? That's the X. Do I want to minimize or maximize it? Those are the other two icons that are there. You'll also notice that I have a question mark. Question mark usually means help. So if I click on that, I'm going to get to the help. Now just below that, you're going to see that it shows me the O365 teacher. Well, that happens to be who I am to Microsoft Word. I mentioned that Word, as part of the Office 365 suite, has both an online and a full version installed on your computer. Well, what this is doing is I've logged in as that user, and it connects the two. And it connects to my cloud storage, my OneDrive storage that I have as part of the Office 365 bundle. What that does for me is it allows me to go ahead and get those documents and bring them and edit them locally, and also save back up to the cloud storage that I have. Just remember that the actual application itself is living on my hard drive. I've installed it and it's now living on my hard drive, which means if I'm working on this and the internet goes out for whatever reason, I can still work on this document. Okay, so that's the top level. The next area down is something that Microsoft calls the ribbon. And the ribbon is just a place where it stores the tools. Previously, in other versions, back in Office 97, when I looked at Word, I had File, and it brought a menu down, and then I would pick a submenu, and then a submenu, and a submenu. And I had to go through all these steps to get to the tools that I needed. If I needed to bold an object, I had to go to Font, Bold, and pick the tree, the menu tree is what it was called. So a couple of versions ago, Microsoft came out with what they call the ribbon. And the ribbon is organized in tabs, and then on the tab you have tool groups, or command groups that are associating similar types of commands into submenus, if you want to think of it that way. So when we look, for example, at Home, I know that the Home is highlighted. The File tab is a unique and different tab. They used to call it the Backstage tab. They call it something different now. And what it is the reason that we're starting off on Home is because Microsoft says, File, yeah, we're going to reserve that as kind of something you have to go pick. It doesn't have a series of tools you're going to use commonly. So therefore, it starts you off on Home. And if I look at the Home tab, you'll notice that I've got my clipboard functions. I have my font tools. I have my paragraph tools. And I have my style and my find and replace and select tools. Each one of those are separated into elements. And as we go through the basics today, we're going to refer to those elements, for example, in font, and show you that each one of those tools does something a little bit different. If I switch over to the insert, you'll notice that my ribbon, the area there, completely changes. And that's because the insert is a completely set of groups of tools. And I have my page, I'm inserting pages, I'm inserting tables, I'm inserting illustrations, I'm inserting applications, media, the links, comments, header and footer information, or specific types of text. When we get into this text area here, we find out in the intermediate course, we've got a lot of pre-programmed things that we can make our job easier and make things quicker by using quick parts and using signature lines and using some other pre-formatted text that we can insert real quickly. And then I have symbols that are listed here. If I click on the design, that really is the overall look and feel of my document. Microsoft Word gives us a huge amount of flexibility, not just in the letters that are on the page, but the size, the fonts, the layouts, the colors. And what we do is we can create themes, and those themes are defaulted font styles, so that when I have headings, they always look this way. When I have body text, it always looks this way. It also can define colors of the page, colors of the border, whether you have borders or not. So really, you're just creating themes. And again, as we go through this, we'll go ahead and we'll show you how you can create some custom themes as well. Page layout is really just about the page that you're looking at. It's here that I find all the tools for setting up my page. What's the size of it? What's the orientation? What are my margins? And then I get some additional spacing here, which are also related to paragraphs. So how are my paragraphs? Are they single line, double line? Are they right next to each other? Are they distant from each other? Do I have space in between characters? And then I have the opportunity, once I get objects inside here, I can begin to arrange them, whether that's an image that I'm moving or an arrow that I've created by using a drawing tool. I can adjust and select those objects based on the tools within the page layout. Because really, that's about how things fit on the page, how it's laid out. Then if I look at references, references is really focusing on table of contents, my endnotes, my footnotes. It's working on table of figures and table of references. It's really all about that advanced, that next level of, I can write a letter all day long, but what if I'm writing a 200-page thesis and I need to have cross-references from an index in the end to a reference or a citation that I have on page 3. Word gives us that functionality. It's not something that we're going to use every day, but I want to make sure that when we get to the intermediate and the advanced classes, that you understand how you can use those tools, because I don't want you to be lacking for anything as we go through this. Mailings, a great function built into the Word application is what's called a mail merge. And a mail merge is basically a marketing concept where I take a list of people and I output a collection of letters that have the unique information. So instead of saying Dear Customer, it would say Dear John, and the next one would be Dear Mary, and the next one is Dear Jane. So I can do that using a mail merge. It's really an easy function. So if you're mailing out Christmas cards, you can actually print labels with this mail merge functionality as well. So if you have your address book in one of your, even on your phone, and you get it out, you can use it to create whether it be cards or letters or emails or labels as well. Then when we talk about review, this is ways that we can review the actual document. There's something built into Word called track changes. And track changes allows you to take a document, finish it, send it to someone, let them change it. But instead of just changing it out and then sending it back to you without knowing what they did, it actually tracks the things that they changed or suggested or updated. And then you have the ability to go in and say, yes, I'll take this change, and no, I don't want that change. This also gives me the opportunity to take two versions and compare them. So I can take a look and take this version and somebody else's version and say, what's the difference? Or take this and merge them together. Those are, again, functions within Word that we're going to talk about as we go through the courses. Then, of course, the View function, or the View tab, gives me ways that I can look at the document. Do I want to zoom in, zoom out? What are the elements that I want to see on these pages? Do I want to have multiple windows open? And it's here that I also see macros. What a macro is a recorded series of steps. So in the advanced course, when we get there, we're actually going to be talking about doing something, recording it so that I can call that same set of steps over and over and over again. Maybe it's a signature, maybe it's a heading, maybe it's an address bar. Whatever it may be, you can record your steps and quickly get to those over and over again. So that's the ribbon. Now I want to let you know that as we go through and use Word, because it's trying to save space, depending upon what we've selected, for example, a picture, we're going to get a different set of tools. We're going to get another tab that shows up. So as we walk through this, I'm going to point those things out to you and say, oh, hey, look, there's a new tab on our ribbon. That's why it's important to understand everything that we're seeing there. All right, so let's go back to my Home tab. On my ribbon, you can see our commands. Then I'm looking at my canvas. My canvas is my document. Then if I look at the bottom, I look at my status bar, I've got some additional things that I want to point out. The bottom left is I've got page 1 of 1. So that tells me how many pages I have and what page I am on it. The next one, how many words do I have? The next one, do I want to check for proofing errors? Do I want to see if I've got any errors associated with this? And then the next one is any macros, whether I have any macros recording or running on that particular document that I'm looking at. Now obviously it's a brand new document. I don't have any of that. Then on the right hand side we get more about the view and the way that I'm looking at this. I'm looking at it right now in my normal print layout view. But I can also click on reading mode, I can click on web layout, because Word does have the ability to create web HTML directly from what you type. It's not the cleanest, but you can do it. And then we have our zoom function. Now we saw before that we can go up to our view tab and we can do our zoom, but we're also going to come back and show you that Microsoft is always giving you more than one way to do just about everything within the system. And right now it tells me that I have zoomed at 100%. The other thing I want to point out is my scroll bar that I have on the right hand side, and when I get zoomed to the point where I can see more than one screen horizontally, I can have a scroll bar at the bottom. So it's going to come and go based on the size of the document that I have. So there's the overall layout of Word. I've got the quick access toolbar, I've got my ribbon, I've got my actual canvas, and then I've got some additional minor helpers down there at the bottom. So let's go ahead and start getting some information onto this page.